Hello, and welcome to another edition of In Touch Safety, the workplace health and safety webinar series presented by Encompass Michigan. Our topic today is hearing conservation. My name is Todd Culver, and I'm the president and CEO at Encompass Michigan. This material was prepared under a Consultation Education and Training, or CET grant, awarded by the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or MIOSHA. MIOSHA is a part of the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, and Encompass Michigan has a long-standing partnership with MIOSHA, and we very much value their support. The objectives for this training include a review of noise exposure, varying noise levels, hearing loss, the relevant MIOSHA standard designed to prevent hearing loss, some of the elements of the standard that include noise monitoring, audiometric testing, and hearing protection. And we'll close with an overview of some general accommodations in support of a diverse workforce. With regard to noise exposure levels, employers are responsible for determining the level of noise in the workplace and identifying employees who are exposed to noise levels at or above 85 decibels as averaged over a typical workday. This is called an 8-hour time-weighted average using the acronym TWA. Noise is defined as unwanted, excessive, or dangerous sound. If an employee is exposed to an excessive amount of noise over a sustained period of time, there is a risk of hearing loss. Hearing loss occurs in the inner ear. Short exposure to excessive noise may cause temporary hearing loss, but if the exposure stops, then hearing can return to normal. This is a phenomenon that's sometimes referred to as bounce back. However, if you are continually exposed to excessive noise, parts of the inner ear can be damaged permanently, resulting in permanent hearing loss. Some warning signs of the onset of hearing loss, including difficulty in hearing consonants, such as the S, S, or T sound in normal conversation, difficulty in separating speech from background noise. You may receive complaints from others that you are talking too loudly, having to turn up the volume on TV or music, difficulty hearing ringing phones or whistles, and difficulty hearing soft sounds, such as a child's voice or perhaps rippling water. And another warning sign is constant ringing in the ears, which is a condition referred to as tinnitus. There are two types of noise in the workplace: continuous and impulse. Continuous noise comes from equipment such as grinders or lathes or other power equipment, whereas impulse noise comes from pneumatic or impact tools or from explosives. Both types of noise can be harmful depending on how loud they are and how long employees are exposed. There are three factors to keep in mind about exposure to noise. The first is loudness. The second is duration, or the length of exposure to that noise. And the third is distance from the source of the noise. And each of these three are taken into consideration in a workplace hearing conservation program. When you are exposed to high levels of noise, serious and permanent damage can result. Although you may believe you are getting used to high noise levels, this usually means you're enduring hearing loss. If the noise level is loud enough that you have to, quote unquote, get used to it, then hearing protection is probably necessary. A rule of thumb for noise is that if you must raise your voice to be heard in the workplace, noise levels should be evaluated to ensure excessive exposures are controlled. Loudness is measured in decibels, or dBA, and some typical noise levels include a whisper at 20 decibels, normal conversation, generally at about 65 decibels. A kitchen blender comes in right at that action level of 85 decibels, whereas a lawnmower at 95, a live concert at 105, or an aircraft taking off at 145. Each of these are examples of excessive levels of noise that exceed that action level. MIOSHA standard, Part 380, occupational noise exposure, defines action level as an 8-hour time-weighted average noise exposure of 85 decibels or higher. When that is the case, a hearing conservation program is therefore required of the employer. That includes the components that I had referenced earlier of noise monitoring, audiometric testing, personal protective equipment, and there are additional requirements of the employer under the standard that include employee training and record keeping. When it comes to noise monitoring, exposure is best determined using equipment called a noise dosimeter. When this is taking place, an employee wears the device, which has a microphone, and it's usually worn on the shoulder, as depicted in the photograph on the slide. The dosimeter records the data and computes the average noise exposure in decibels, as well as the percent dose. And the results of that measurement are representative of the employee's noise exposure. The MIOSHA standard requires implementation of a hearing conservation program, again, when an employee's exposure meets or exceeds the action level. Audiometric testing is also required under the standard. This testing monitors the sharpness of your hearing. It should occur on a baseline and annual basis. It tests the employee's ability to hear various decibel levels and is generally given yearly to employees who are exposed to 85 decibels or higher over an 8-hour time-weighted average. When it comes to hearing protection or personal protective equipment, there are two types of devices that can reduce noise exposure: earplugs and ear muffs. Images depicting each of these examples are shown on the slide. Earplugs fit into your ear canal, blocking excessive noise from reaching the inner ear, which could thereby cause damage. When inserting foam earplugs, first of all, make sure hands are clean, then roll the plug into a small crease-free cylinder between the thumb and the forefinger. With the other hand, pull the ear outward and upward to allow the ear canal to open slightly, and then insert the plug well into the ear with your fingertip and hold in place for a few moments to allow the plug time to fully expand. Some things to remember about earplugs: hands should be clean before inserting. They must fit tightly or snugly in the ear canal. These should be checked and adjusted throughout the workday. There are reusable earplugs that should be cleaned with soap and water and then stored in their case after each use. There are also disposable foam earplugs, but any earplugs should be replaced if they begin to show signs of wear. Earmuffs, on the other hand, are worn over the ear, preventing excessive noise from entering the ear canal in a different way. When using ear muffs, we should always inspect the inner linings for cracks, tears, or other signs of wear. Center the earmuffs so that equal pressure is distributed around the ears for a tight seal. Hair should be pushed aside, and earrings as well, to keep from interfering with the seal. And make sure glasses or eye protection does not interfere with that seal either. Some things to remember about earmuffs: the seal should be checked and adjusted throughout the workday to ensure optimal protection. When finished, again, cleaning is important. Clean the cushions with a wet cloth, and again, replace earmuffs that show signs of wear. There is a condition under MIOSHA called the General Duty Clause, and it requires employers to maintain a workplace that's free from any recognized hazards. as it relates to noise exposure, the application of the general duty clause means that we can respond to a hazardous noise level by eliminating the hazard. An example would be to identify substitute equipment that runs quieter. We could mitigate or contain the hazard by creating walls around the source, the noise source, curtains, baffles, or any other barrier that would prevent the noise from reaching employees and causing damage. And the last line of defense is personal protective equipment, or PPE, in this case, either earplugs or ear muffs. In addition to the requirements under the MIOSHA standard, some general accommodations should be considered in support of a diverse workforce. For example, neurodivergent employees may have sensitive hearing, which, if not accommodated, can lead to sensory overload. Loud or numerous noises can be distracting, sometimes even painful to those with sensitive hearing. For example, an office space of 20 employees may not seem loud, but those with hearing sensitivities may be able to pick up the conversations at every cubicle. Simultaneously hearing cars driving by outside and coworkers typing on their keyboards all at once. And this can be overwhelming when trying to focus on a task. A quiet, safe space can help reduce sensory overload, but as a rule, employers' main goal should be prevention of sensory overload. Employees who have sensitive hearing may request an accommodation, may ask for noise-canceling headphones, which suppress ambient sounds using active noise control, or ANC. Earplugs or normal ear muffs may not be enough to help reduce sensory overload on their own. And if requested, these will eliminate that background noise, thereby reducing sensory overload, and can improve productivity and focus. In summary, if an employee is exposed to an excessive amount of noise over a sustained period of time, there is a risk of hearing loss. Employers must maintain a workplace free from any recognized hazards, and this includes excessive noise. Hearing protection and conservation are an important element of workplace safety, but also remember the principles of noise reduction in the context of the General Duty Clause and accommodations for supporting a diverse workforce, particularly supporting individuals who are neurodivergent. Thank you for joining us today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and be careful out there.